What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to part 80 of my full playthrough of Batman Arkham Knight on the PlayStation 4. Yes, you heard me correctly, part 80. We're almost done with this game. Literally all I have left to do is read the Gotham City stories, which we're going to do in this part, and then we have to defeat Scarecrow once and for all. That's all we have left to do. Okay? Once we do that, it's game over. And we can move on to my next game, which I told you is going to be finishing up Spider-Man Friend or Foe. And then we're going to play Crash Bandicoot. So let's go back into the menu. And this time, instead of looking at the patient interview tapes like we did last time, we're going to look at all these Gotham City stories. Now, there's a bunch of them, so I'm going to be reading pretty fast. When I was listening to the patient interview tapes, I had commentary in between listening to them, but I'm not going to really do that for this. I'm just going to let the city stories be the commentary and just read them. So let's start with Faithful Servant. And see what this says. Each of these has 3 things, so this is going to take a while. So it says, Faithful Servant. Breakfast at Wayne Manor was served at 6 p.m. and traditionally consisted of an egg white omelet, a pot of black coffee, and a pair of mild painkillers served on a small silver dish to the side of the tray. Lately, Master Bruce had taken to leaving the omelet. Today was no exception. Alfred noted, stepping out of his employer's bedroom, tray in hand. This was unlike Bruce Wayne, who would force down bloody slabs of meat when sick rather than risk the loss of muscle mass. Interesting. Alright. But Master Bruce hadn't been himself since the Joker died. Alfred expected some change naturally, but he had hoped his master might relax. Instead, Bruce had attacked Gotham's criminal population with renewed intensity. When Alfred questioned him, Bruce had explained the necessity of striking while the power vacuum remained. Eminently sensible, yet Bruce's urgency seemed like that of a man running out of time. Alfred found Bruce in the Batcave, of course, already suited, sending revised specifications to Lucius for the new Batmobile. Sir, Alfred ventured, given that we have no pressing leads this evening and sundown is not for another 45 minutes, I thought I might tempt you with what remains of your breakfast. 42 minutes. Bruce kept his eyes on the back computer screen. Alfred paused for a moment, wondering what possibly could have driven the man he raised to keep secrets from him. For the first time in 30 years. Very good, sir, Alfred said before leaving the room. Interesting. Wonder Tower. Ooh, this will probably be stuff about Arkham City. Yeah. Hugo Strange followed Ra's al Ghul out of Wonder Tower's viewing platform. Arkham City gleamed beneath them, a peaceful patchwork of neon and steel. How is our mayor? Ra's inquired, tightly gripping the railing to steady himself. Playing his part, Strange observed. People seem quite convinced. It'll be morally repugnant to a few, but even they cannot deny the impulse. Ra's closed his eyes to wipe the slate clean. Strange had noticed the subtle glitches in his master's behavior. The professor had conducted enough experiments to recognize the symptoms of mental trauma, as well as a patient was trying to mask its effects. I wish you would allow me access to the source of your power, Strange said benignly. I could help. It is here, isn't it? In the base of this tower. Ra's laughed, and suddenly Strange couldn't breathe. You think you see weakness Ra's squeezed. Strange felt his throat tightening, life ebbing away. How wrong you are. Ra's released him, and Strange dropped to his knees, sucking in air. Ra's walked back to his place overlooking the city. We will rid the Gotham of its vermin. Nothing can stop us. Strange massaged his neck. You think he will stand by idly while we murder thousands? Batman won't. Ra's replied, but Bruce Wayne won't have any choice. It's funny how they're bringing this up in Arkham Knight. I don't know why this isn't an Arkham City story in Arkham City, but oh well. Guardian Angel. Oh, the Order Saint Demas. This has got to be Azrael. Guardian Angel. To find Batman, find the injustice. Please God, don't hurt me. The man in the suit backed away, tossing his wallet on the ground. His attackers closed in. One of them scooped up the wallet and fingered the notes inside. Jackpot! The other cracked his knuckles and threw a punch, dropped the suit to his knees, holding his broken face. Money won't save you, but he can. The ripple of taut fabric as a shadowy cape swooped down. He'll go for the sweep. The thug was busy counting when Batman took his legs. The wallet spun into the air as the sound of his skull cracking pinballed throughout the alleyway. The other thug turned and charged. His style has changed, less elaborate. Batman threw his arm into the swinging hook, popping the shoulder joint. Strike the vulnerable areas. End it fast. His fist slammed the thug's tattooed solar plexus, stopping his body like a bolt of electricity. The longer the fight, the more it hurts him. Batman stood over the unconscious men, head tilted back, eyes shut, breathing hard. How can he leave them? They don't deserve to live. Azrael looked down from the rooftop. He studied Batman for long enough. He knew what Gotham needed: divine justice. Oh, Bane, Homecoming. Maybe this will tell us what happened to Bane after Arkham City. 254 days, 17 hours and 9 minutes. It seemed like a lifetime, yet still he hungered every waking moment. A test of will. He'd never truly be free of the cravings, but at least now he'd found a means to channel all that pain into something productive, something worthwhile. He'd returned to Santa Prisca, broken and desperate, still reeling from his run-in with Batman in Arkham City. He was searching for solace, a fresh start, a means of making the nightmares stop. When he arrived in the slums of his homeland and found a young boy bleeding out from a gunshot wound in the street, the mother reeling by his side, Bane realized what had really drawn him back here. Beneath the veneer of luxury resorts and spas, Santa Prisca was a hotbed of corruption, ruled by vicious cartels, drug lords amped up on venom, embroiled in a bloody turf war that had claimed countless innocent lives. Bane had started from the bottom and worked his way up. Now, as the sun bled out over the horizon, he admired the fruits of his labor. 12 severed heads lined up on the beach in various states of decay, the 12 most powerful drug lords on the island. His work was almost done. Just one target remained. Penadura, the stone fortress in which he'd been born, raised and forever corrupted. That must be the prison he was held in. It was time to tear it all down. Interesting. The Trap. Ooh, Batgirl. It's a nice suit. Batgirl saves Commissioner. Batgirl foils museum heist. Who is Batgirl? Alright, The Trap. 3 thugs, 1 hostage. Easy. First, the guy with the gun. Barbara dropped behind the nearest of Joker's goons, crouched, and launched herself back up. One eskrima stick in the back of the knee to drop him. The other met the back of his skull on the way down. Next, the guy with the knife. He'd had a knife anyway. He had a broken wrist now, a wrist she caught between her sticks, or both her sticks, and snapped when he lunged at her. She let the arm drop and swung her weapon back and over her shoulders onto his head. The sad clown makeup looked perfect as he fell to the floor. And now the mop-up. She dropped and swung a sweeping kick to meet the last thug as he charged her, sending him barely into a wall. Easy. The hostage was crying, curled fetal with his back to her from the corner of the room. Odd for a police officer in Gotham. They've usually seen worse. It's okay. Barbara took a step towards him. It's me, Batgirl. The sobbing got worse, louder, hysterical, and when Barbara froze, he wasn't crying at all. What's wrong? The officer crooned. Aren't you gonna rescue me? Not exactly. Barbara's eyes scanned for exits. Her feet took a fighting stance. Well then, said Joker, twisting round to face her until he was lunging in a blood-stained police officer's uniform on his side. Why don't you rescue Commissioner Gordon instead? Interesting. The Joker was playing a hostage to trap her, I guess. Resolutions. This must be about Calendar Man. January 1st, New Year's. Happy New Year, diary. I feel melancholy. The old dates hold no magic anymore. My New Year's resolution is to find new occasions to celebrate. January 21st. I feel reborn. Today I celebrated National Hugging Day for the first time. I went to Elliott Memorial Hospital, covered myself in infected blood, and visited the children's ward. Aye, dude. February 2nd, happy Groundhog Day. My new house guest and I are going to watch the stream from Puxatawny together. If the rodent predicts an early spring, I'll let my new friend go. But if the groundhog retreats to his burrow, I'll bury my guest alive. Sheesh. June 5th, World Environment Day, a worthy, important cause. I passed this message on to a class of school children by forcing them to drink ACE Chemicals runoff. They won't pollute now. September 19th. Dear Diary, happy International Talk Like a Pirate Day. Today I cut off a man's leg and nailed a wooden peg in its place. He couldn't walk the plank, very disappointing. Checked on my scurvy victim, but she wasn't ready next year. Aye. September 21st, happy World Peace Day. I left bombs at the Karachi Embassy. October 29th, Halloween tempts me. I promised Batman I would be present at his end, and All Hallows Eve is the perfect time to bid farewell to him. I will make this one exception in my year of alternative celebrations. October 31st. Damn, Scarecrow. Poison Chalice. Cash lifted the framed photo of the box and placed it on the desk. He still remembered the day he pinned it to the inside of his locker during his first shift at the asylum. It had been with him ever since. Nice looking family you got, sir, the sergeant remarked, busily clearing out the previous owner's possessions from the drawer. Cash was close to telling him it was a lucky charm, but he knew the reaction he'd get. The kid didn't know how crazy things could get. He'd soon end up as superstitious as all the rest. Besides, something was telling Cash luck might not be worth a damn around here. He would be the 5th station supervisor in as many months. The others were all gone, assassinated. Cash knew he was putting himself in the crosshairs, tempting fate, but the commissioner had asked, and he couldn't refuse a friend. The sergeant finished packing the dead man's things just as Gordon arrived. "Aaron," Jim said, offering his hand. "Didn't think I'd see you tonight," Cash replied, shaking the commissioner's hand. Gordon always came down for this part. It was the introduction. Both men stepped out of the elevator onto the roof. The bat signal illuminated the night sky. "You know," Cash said, "we have met already." "I know," Gordon said, "but it's tradition. Just another word for superstition," Cash thought. On the prowl. Want to find a weak link in a security system? Look for the man with a gun, especially when they're new in town. Poor guy didn't even know the first rule of Gotham, Selina mused. The mantra thugs from Bleak to the Bowery drilled into new recruits. Always look up. Well, he'd know it now. Selina dragged his unconscious body behind a dumpster and slipped through a vent into Arkham Asylum's administrative building. She was late. The meeting had started. Ended, maybe. Scarecrow's voice, sonorous yet raspy, carried along the vent like a snake slithering through dry grass. Another voice replied, young, angry, and disguised. Footsteps, then sounds. Worthless. Selina needed more. Names, details, a date. Batman was more inclined to ignore the occasional heist when she had information he needed. And besides, it was fun having something to wield over him, seeing the pained, pleading expression on Gotham's apex predator's face when they were alone and she at the upper hand. She peeked through the vent. Scarecrow's office. No guards by the door. Good. Selina dropped down, twisting her body to land on all fours, and then an arc of electricity lashed out from the ceiling. Selina dodged it, all reflexes, and saw her attacker floating above the vent. Since when did Scarecrow have security drones? Damn it, Selina, she thought, plotting her exit over the sound of the alarm. Always look up. Man, there's a lot of stories. Why do there have to be so many stories? So many. Cargo. Sorry. The dozing soldiers snapped awake, gripped their semi-automatic rifles, and flicked the safeties off. They weren't sure what it was that had them spooked. Turbulence, perhaps. The unit commander nodded towards the container, trigger finger poised. The metal box was taking up most of the airship's cargo hold. It must have weighed several tons. And that wasn't including what was trapped inside, the thing these men had spent several weeks tracking through marshland on the outskirts of Gotham. Not everyone who started the mission had made it. Their ravaged bodies left behind unceremoniously. This mission didn't exist, and now neither did they. A plainclothes agent was reading the file, holding a handkerchief to his face to try and stem the smell of rotting fish emanating from the container. He only had words, but photographs, patient history. He wouldn't get to see the creature for real, a relief. The agent looked up and spotted the panicked faces. These soldiers were tired and burnt out. Last thing he needed was any accidents. Easy, boys, he yelled over the engine door, slapping the metal prison. He ain't waking up for another month. Within the container, the tranquilizer had all but worn off. The opaque membrane withdrew across the eye. The vertical slit-shaped pupils dilated. Croc was awake and wanted off this airship. We might have to split this into 2 parts, because I might be able to get the first half of these read now, and then I'll have to get the second half of these read later, because there's way more of these than I thought. Oh, the Deacon's mission. Clark stood on the littered sidewalk looking up at the sign. Until now this place had been a rumor, whispered in the dark, the Deacon's mission. But the sounds of it had to take your bread with a little preaching. They could try, Clark thought. He wasn't that hungry. Inside, a couple dozen men had their heads down, folding up tables and unstacking towers of chairs in rows. Clark spotted a large stainless steel pot, its lid ajar, the slit puffing steam. He made straight for it, his mouth hung open expectantly as he grabbed the lid. They wanted to clear that away. A hand fell on his shoulder and squeezed. But he told me you'd come. The voice had that benevolence only a servant of God could muster. Clark turned around. The Deacon's graying hair and lined face betrayed a searing vitality. "I'd like something to eat, please, sir," Clark heard himself, the last and only person he addressed that way being his father. The Deacon released his grip and proceeded to ladle hot soup into a bowl. "The Lord needs us strong," he proclaimed, passing it to Clark along with a spoon. The warm liquid snaked down his throat and coiled within his belly. It felt good, better than expected. Clark went to another spoonful. Maybe he was that hungry after all. Cheap Shot. A Close Shot with Dead Shot by Jack Ryder. "Are you ready, Jack?" Batman asked, looking straight at me, one eye filled with admiration, the other with respect. "I'm ready, Batman," I replied bravely. "Then let's do this, Jack, together," Batman said. Asked, really. Great. The Dark Knight stood up from behind our cover. Then, as we prepared to take on the deadly assassin Deadshot together, was I afraid, dear reader? I was terrified. But I couldn't let it show. Batman needed me. Then I saw it, the laser sight playing like a lover's tongue around his nipple. "Batman, no!" I shouted dramatically. I dived forward then, knocking the Cape Crusader to the ground as the bullet whizzed past my ear. Batman was back on his feet in an instant, however. He grabbed me and pulled us both into cover behind a chimney chute in the bottom room of Arkham City. "What now, Jack?" Batman asked, his voice crackling slightly under the strain. I thought for a moment. "You need to hide behind cover whenever he's looking in your direction, Batman," I explained patiently, "and then try and reach the vent under the helipad." Batman looked at the distance between him and the sharpshooter marksman. "You could do it, Batman," I said reassuringly. "I know you can." Oh boy. Jack Ryder, you're full of yourself. You weren't even there when I took out Deadshot in Arkham City. You almost got killed by him. Deathstroke contingency. Slade pushed the hunting knife along the wheatstone. The smooth scrape of steel underscoring the live combat feed. The last Cobra went offline with a burst of radio interference. Slade shook his head. "Damn amateurs." Slade Wilson, a.k.a. Deathstroke. A surveillance drone was circling above Bleak Island, relaying the battle below. The Knight was protecting the cloudburst and failing. Batman had just taken apart his support. Now it was just the two of them. Slade glanced at the monitor, their heat signatures stalking each other through the city streets. He ran his thumb along the blade. Still dull. This is torture. forced to watch from a mobile command center. The Ace Chemical siege, the occupation, everything. Batman had taken on an entire army and was winning. Slade didn't belong here observing. It was like watching someone play a video game badly, itching to pick up the controller. Contingency wasn't his style. He was better than that. But Scarecrow knew just how to sell it. He promised the soldier an end to those nightmares, that fear that made his hands tremble. Revenge, that is what you seek, and I can give it to you. The Knight's tank took a strike, systems critical. A plume of white static erupted on the screen. No one was making it out of that thing alive. Seconds later, the radio crackled. "Is it time?" Scarecrow announced. "Batman is yours." Slade tested the blade. It was sharp enough now. Burn notice. Lins took a generous swig from his hip flask, then pushed through the heavy oak doors into Tommaso Panessa's office. "Garfield, have a seat." His boss's plump red face and expanded waistline betrayed the fact that he was bankrupt financially as well as morally. Lins shrunk into a chair at Panessa as Panessa dispensed his small talk, then began to justify the unceremonious firing of this lowly FX artist. Despite the critical acclaim, the Inferno had recovered less than a quarter of its inflated budget in the 6 months since its release. Such a high-profile failure, combined with increased attention from the IRS, meant that laundering millions of dollars of mob money through Panessa Studios was no longer a viable business plan. "I always liked you, Lins," he said, like a veterinarian comforting an animal before pushing the plunger on the lethal injection. "But the industry's different now. As a studio, we need to adapt or perish, and that means making some tough decisions." Garfield declined the pro-offered cigar with a wave of his hand. He felt sick watching the greasy old bastard wrap his lips around a wad of dried leaves that cost 3 times his monthly salary. "I'm sure a man of your intelligence knew this day would come, Garfield. I'm sure you've prepared for every eventuality." Lins was prepared, all right. He struck a match off the solid oak table and held it up to light the man's cigar. He met his boss's gaze for the last time, then expelled a mouthful of nitroglycerin through the dancing flame. Frozen out. Wrapped in cold, Nora slumbered. Deep in slumber, Nora dreamed. She dreamt of Victor, of the man he was, and of the man she knew he'd become. She heard him sometimes, his new metallic voice piercing through the frozen veil of her sleep like an ice pick. She heard his curses, his muttered threats. And when whatever new therapy he was working on failed, when cells refused to divide and line up like soldiers on parade, when carefully audited mutations lay stubbornly dormant in unresponsive genes, she heard his harsh, anguished screams. It had been gradual, this thawing of her consciousness back into something alive, something that flowed thickly, liquidy, from dream to memory, and could even snatch in traces of the outside world. She was trapped, imprisoned in frozen flesh, but not afraid. Fear seemed impossible for her cooled brain. But there was a kind of freedom in this new existence, freedom from Huntington's racked body she'd left behind. "This'll work, Nora, this'll work." Victor talked to her most days, worked through scientific problems as if she was his lab assistant, professed his love reminisced about his early months of their marriage, but the memories were distant now, more new. The details became vaguer every time. She wasn't just a frozen body. Nora had long realized she was an idealized memory. Frozen in time. Was this love? Victor said he could save her, but every second's passing drew them further apart. No, Nora remembered love. Love was warm. Fallout. Your Honor, Gordon shouted. This man's insane. For the last time, Commissioner, we're not here to discuss the prisoner's state of mind. Judge Wessel looked across at Gordon from the parole board panel, a look Jim had seen a dozen times this morning. Please. Wessel's watery eyes were saying, don't make this harder than it is. Gordon shot a more succinct look back. To his left, the prisoner started talking again. Come now, Your Honor. As slanderous as the Commissioner's comments are, he's only expressing his frustration at the farcical nature of this so-called legal proceeding. Perhaps he doesn't understand that his presence is merely for appearance's sake. You're decorative, Detective, Riddler concluded, flashing Jim a smug smile. Gordon understood all right. Thousands of prisoners, all held illegally and then nearly murdered by Hugo Strange. The inevitable class action lawsuit had left his tedious, soul-sapping exercise in its wake. Hundreds of parole hearings that only went one way. The prisoner got their freedom back, and Gordon got a signed declaration that the offender promised to be on his best behavior from here on in. Now, Riddler continued, given that our poor Commissioner must endure several hundred more of these hearings, why don't you spare us the tedium of forcing him to reiterate the state's legally soiled case against me and simply grant me the freedom to which I'm entitled? The entire parole board spluttered indignantly. Man's got a point, Gordon conceded as he walked out the door. Power play. No more of this grief crap, thought Scratch. 6 months since the Joker died, time hardly moved on. And if she couldn't move on, well, it's time the gang did. Scratch was smart. Everybody said it. And he had a plan. Harley had one of her freaky Joker statues, the ones with a television set on his shoulders in her room. Every night, she kissed the creepy video reel of his face goodnight, right on the grinning lips. Scratch was gonna put a bomb inside it, kill Harley, and decapitate the old boss too. Nothing says put Scratch in charge like that. Harley was out. Gang war with Penguin's crew. That's all they did these days. Defend instead of expand. Scratch was gonna change that, he thought, slipping into a room. Red and black everywhere. The curtains, the carpet, the bed, like playing cards, Harley said when she handed out the new uniforms. Clubs and hearts. Joker was in the corner, grinning at him. His eyes followed Scratch around the room, interrupted by occasional static. I dare you, they said, as Scratch crept up to the smiling ghost. Sorry, boss, he said, taking out the screwdriver and the small explosive charge, but I've got to do this for the gang. Bad idea, Scratchy, Joker replied. Scratch froze, terrified. Bad idea, Scratchy, Joker said, some intonation as before, or same intonation as before. Bad idea, Scratchy. Scratch relaxed. She'd cut it together, made it out of old tapes, but that meant the skull-cracking impact of Harley's baseball bat cut off the thought. So she knew. Alright, we'll read 4 more of these in this part, and then we'll do the rest of them in the next part, because I didn't realize this was going to take this long. Sheesh. I read all the Arkham City stories in Arkham City in one part, but that's because there weren't as many of them. Oh boy. Keep your friends close. Master Bruce, you have a visitor. Bruce looked up from his position, curled in a fetal ball on the window ledge. He'd had plenty of visitors since the death of his parents, an endless stream of grown-ups who suffocated him with kindness, patting him on the head and talking in soft, patronizing voices as if a sentence spoken at normal volume might cause the poor little orphan to detonate like a bomb they'd rather leave undisturbed than risk having diffused. This wasn't one of those people. This was Thomas Elliot, Tommy. The blond boy pushed past Alfred before Bruce could respond. He looked at Bruce and grinned. "Thank you, Alfred," Bruce said, trying to sound formal in front of his friend. Alfred coughed awkwardly before leaving the room. It was these moments, when others were around, that he and Bruce were still learning to navigate together. Alfred had reached for Bruce's hand at the funeral, only for the boy to snatch it away, embarrassed, yet he refused to let go during the car ride home. "We have to be kind to you." Tommy slumped casually down next to Bruce and fixed him with an intense stare that mirrored Bruce's own. "That's what Miss Hyslop said at school." "Everyone's being kind to me, Tommy. It's boring." Tommy thought about this. "I wish my parents were dead," he said eventually. "Then I'd be a billionaire like you." Bruce's stunned laughter echoed around the Manor's empty rooms. That's a weird thing for a little boy to say. He was a lunatic even as a child. Tommy, not Bruce. Wallflower. Pamela stirred from her slumber and squinted at the lone orchid of her nightstand. Conventional wisdom says a Gloriosa could never survive in such dry, frigid conditions, just as the doctors had predicted she herself would wither and die within a month of her admittance to Seattle General's intensive care unit. They'd been almost 6, and the flower was in full bloom, while Pamela had never felt stronger or more in tune with the world around her. The orchid had been a gift from her mentor, Professor Jason Woodrow. The man who'd professed his love for her then left her to die from a toxic cocktail of phytomorphines he'd forced her to ingest in the lab they shared. Pamela's initial heartache seemed paltry in hindsight. She realized Woodrow's parting gift was far greater than even he could have imagined. The orchid spoke to her now, ethereal whispers of a world beyond these sterile walls, of a higher purpose, a new life. Pamela feigned sleep when the door opened and the handsome specialist approached the bed to check on her. She thrust out an arm, gripped the back of his neck with inhuman strength, and pulled him in close. The man was powerless to resist as she planted a deadly kiss on his lips. Timid wallflower Pamela Isley was no more. Poison ivy had arrived. Oh, great. So that's the birth of poison ivy. Just Jack. Oh, great. Another thing by Jack Ryder. Jack Ryder's weekly column, only in the Herald. "Hey there, Gotham. Jack's back. I know, it's been a while, but I've been busy. Book deals, TV appearances, negotiations to syndicate this very column. Those things take time. Jack fans. Too much time. Actually, and the agents never call you back, so I decided to give up on them. Besides, I already had a role in the televisual event of the season. Yep, that was my handsome face you saw sprouting from an immaculately tailored suit and giving evidence to the Arkham City Commission. And I just want to set the record straight. Yes, I said that Arkham City was illegal. Yes, I produced documentary evidence of prisoners being abused, degraded, forced to live in squalor, and nearly killed. And yes, I said that anyone exposed to such horror should be released and generously compensated. But let's get one thing straight, Gotham. I was talking about me. I didn't need to see that crap. I shouldn't have even been there. I saw one guy eating his own arm when food supplies ran low. His own arm! I mean, he didn't look like he was accustomed to hot cuisine on the other side of the wall, but me, I dined well, Gotham, and I needed therapy after. So all you losers sending me hate mail, stop it. It's not my fault all the crooks got free. I just wanted Gotham City to repay its debt to me, and I'm sure you do too. Justice for Jack Ryder Gate. Whatever, bro. Alright, last one in this part. The Fall. Batman was wrong. He'd always been wrong about Joker. There was no madhouse qualified, no prison secure enough. Jason knew that now, after what he'd seen tonight. Little arms, little legs, little heads, crudely, mockingly stitched together. He'd come straight from the kindergarten, followed a trail of innocent blood back to Arkham Asylum. Tracker switched off, Cal communications disabled. He was a ghost. Batman wouldn't find him until it was done. Weeping parents fighting over patchwork corpses. The sanatorium had been derelict for years, a burnt-out patch of dead earth on top, a forgotten warren of cells below. Good, Jason thought. He's already in the dirt. There was a moral line that Bruce had sworn never to cross. Jason would cross it for him. Jason had been watching a grief-stricken mother piece her son together when the kindergarten speaker system came to life. No, Robin, he thought, push it down. Jason pulled back the heavy iron doors that would have once led into a laundry chute and dropped into the dark. Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, Joker sang. It was a net halfway down that caught him. It broke with his weight, sending him tumbling out the end of the chute onto the granite floor. Jason gritted his teeth, breathing through them. The first swing of the crowbar took out 2 teeth. The second broke his ankle. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again, Joker was singing. So that's how Jason got basically kidnapped by Joker. He fell through a laundry chute. It was a trap, and it was in a kindergarten. Interesting. Well, that's half of the Arkham City stories. I thought I was going to get through all of them in this video, but I only got through half of them, so I'm going to have to read the other half in the next part. Then we'll continue with the actual game. Probably should have done all this stuff at the end of the game, but whatever. Whew. Who would have known it would take me over 40 minutes just to read half of those stories? Those are long stories. I wish they were only like 1 page long. Why they gotta be 3 pages long each? That's so long. Whatever, we got through half of them in this part. We'll read the other half in the next part. I don't know why I'm reading them. It's useful information. You know, we're learning things about the game that we didn't know before. So it's cool stuff. I think the patient interview tapes were better because it was something to listen to. but it's whatever. But that'll do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new by hitting the subscribe button, and then click that notification bell. Set it to all notifications on so you never miss any of my videos, whether it's in my Let's Plays and Walkthrough series, my Contact Mission series in GTA 5, or my Call of Duty free-for-alls. And also go follow me on Twitter, King James Gaming. I post all my stuff over there. It's got the same name as my YouTube channel and the same profile picture so that you can tell it's me. And I'll catch you guys in the next video, so I'll see you all later.